Plastic is a synthetic organic polymer which becomes part and parcel of today's modern life. Whatever materials are being used in our day-to-day activities, out of those materials more than 80% are plastic materials. It includes wrappers of food, drugs, cosmetics, and other industrial products, insulating materials, car tires, synthetic cloths, etc. The manufacturing, use, and discharge of plastic materials have significantly increased, causing their accumulation in landfills in the natural environment. Global production of plastics has increased from around 5 million tons per year during 1950s to over 6,300 million tons today. The amount projected by 2050 is about 40 billion tons, which is enough to wrap 6 layers of cling film around the planet.
Plastic is a classic case of how we are capable of turning every blessing that we have into a curse upon ourselves. Due to irresponsible usage, plastic has become one of the most serious challenges in the ecological sphere. They are saying by 2050, there could be more plastic in the oceans than the fish.
Plastic materials generally are not biodegradable. It takes 500 to 1,000 years to degrade, but over time, it disintegrates into meso, micro, and nano debris and released to the natural environments. Plastics debris are dividing according to their size into nano, micro and meso. The term nanoplastics refers to particles measuring between 1 and 100 nanometers, microplastics to particles of 0.1 micrometers to 5,000 micrometers, and mesoplastics to all materials above 5 millimeters. Microplastic is defined as a heterogeneous mixture of differently shaped materials referred to as fragments, fibres, spheroids, granules, pellets, flakes or beads, fibers smaller than 5 millimeters in size, and made of synthetic polymers. There are 2 classes of microplastics based on how they are produced. These are primary microplastics and secondary microplastics. Primary microplastics are virgin plastic pellets, nurdles, and microplastic scrubbers, which come from toothpaste, exfoliating cream, hand cleaners, face cleaners, and shaving foams. These microbeads are usually washed through sinks and drains, which then lead them to seawater through river. Secondary microplastics are little plastics particles which result from wear, tear, abrasion, breakdown and degradation of large plastic debris. Secondary microplastic generated from washing machine, plastic industries, cloth industries, construction work activities, etc., and also from discharged plastic of sea and landfill. Microplastics are biologically inert materials which harbor the endogenous chemical additives such as bisphenol A, phthalates, and also they can absorb concentrate hydrophobic organic contaminants such as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, organochlorine pesticides, polychlorinated biphenyls, and heavy metals, cadmium, zinc, nickel, and lead. Microplastics become major health concern due to presence of hazardous chemicals and microorganisms. Recently, joint FAO and WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives, JACFA, considered microplastic as an emerging food safety concern which need to be addressed immediately because of toxicity and health hazard associated with it. Microplastic is being found in seafood, sea salt, honey, beer, tap water, and packaged drinking water. Microplastic in bottled water. Orb Media and researchers from the State University of New York from US were tested 259 individual bottles from 27 different lots across 11 brands sold in 9 countries. Samples were collected from 19 locations of these countries including Indian cities of New Delhi, Chennai, and Mumbai. Microplastic contamination was found in 93% of these samples. The densities of microplastic contamination were quite variable, ranging from 0 to 10,000 microplastic particles per liter. These microplastic contaminants consist of polypropylene, 54%, come from plastic bottle caps, nylon, 16%, and polyethylene, 10%. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India (FSSAI) CEO Pawan Kumar Agarwal commented on these findings about microplastics contamination in bottled water in India is not alarming as there was no known health hazard due to it. He considered microplastic magnitude in bottled water as minuscule, like 1/10 of sugar cube in a shipping container. Microplastic in salt. Researcher from University Putra Malaysia, Monash University Malaysia and University of Exeter, UK was studied the presence of microplastic in 17 different brands of salt originating from 8 different countries. Microplastics were absent in one brand from France while others contained between 1 to 10 microplastic particles of larger than 149 micrometer per kg of salt. Out of the 72 detected particles, 41.6% were plastic particles, 23.6% were pigments, 5.50% were amorphous carbon, and 29.1% remained unidentified. The major plastic polymers were polypropylene at 40.0% of the total plastic polymers, followed by polyethylene, 33.3%, polyethylene terephthalate, 6.66%, polystyrene, 6.66%, polyacrylonitrile, 10.0%, and nylon 3.33%. Due to the low density of polypropylene and polyethylene, allowing these to float on the water surface and be readily reached into salt pans and contaminate the salt. Microplastic in tap water. 159 tap water samples were collected from 14 developed and developing countries including India Biomedia, and were investigated for presence of microplastics particles by a group of scientists from University of Minnesota and the State University of New York. Microplastics particles were found in 81 of these samples, which ranged from 0 to 61 particles per liter. Tap water samples from developed nations, EU, US and Lebanon, had comparatively higher density of microplastic, 6.85 particles per liter, than the samples from developing nations, Cuba, Ecuador, India, Indonesia, Uganda, where density was 4.26 particles per liter. Tap water samples from New Delhi were reported microplastic density as 0 to 20 particles per liter. Out of 539 synthetic microparticles, 98.3% were identified as fibers of less than 0.96 mm of length. Microplastic in seafood. Out of the 25 most important species and genera of global marine fisheries, gut of 12 species has been found microplastic debris. Although microplastic recorded in gut of common fishes such as sardines, anchovies, shrimps, urchins, but it become important food safety concern for shellfish, mussels, clams and some shrimps, as a whole, including the gastrointestinal tract, is consumed. Mussels from Europe contain less than 0.5 microplastic particle per gram, whereas from China, it contained 4 microplastic particles per gram. 250 grams of mussels per day per person is consumed by Belgian elderly population, which may be containing approximately 9 micrograms microplastic. The exposure assessment on microplastics in mussels confirmed that the estimated daily intake of microplastics is 0.15 micrograms per kilogram. Toxicity of microplastics. In general, after oral ingestion, the largest fraction, more than 90%, of the ingested microplastics will be excreted via feces. Only plastic particles smaller than 1.5 micrometers may translocate across the gut epithelium, causing systemic exposure where it may interact with the immune system, to cause oxidative stress and changes to the DNA. Phthalates, a type of chemical used to make plastic flexible, have been shown to increase the growth of breast cancer cells and reduce fertility. Bisphenol A, BPA, is usually found in plastic packaging or food storage containers, and can leak out into food, which has interfered with reproductive hormones, especially in women. In vitro study reported that the microplastics can accumulate in the liver, kidneys and intestines, and increased levels of oxidative stress molecules in the liver. Microplastic can easily reach the human lungs via air, which may cause lung cells to produce inflammatory chemical. Although recent scientific studies reported the presence of microplastics in different foods, but their load in food materials is insufficient to cause health risks. However, the increasing the use and disposal of plastic will lead to increase the accumulation of microplastic in the oceans, lakes, agriculture fields, which may increase the load of microplastics in foods. Consumption of such microplastic contaminated foods may cause serious health risk in mass population. Let us all, regulators, educators, academias, scientists, researchers, policymakers, government, manufacturing industries, press more in educating the public, researching on the effects of microplastics, putting right policies in place against the negative acts on microplastics, and doing the right thing by not making the oceans and agricultural fields a dumping place.